Name me a more toxic relationship than Barca and the Champions League.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword. And Barcelona died by it tonight.
Wait a minute, mate, because Bayern Munich have scored another. Philippe.
I think there's a point where sportsmanship comes in and you stop scoring goals.
Maybe Barca and red cards.
We take an early red card. I remember Barcelona having the tie in the hand against Paris Saint-Germain 2 years ago, and Araujo gets a red card, everything changes.
But it has been the story of Barcelona that their defensive mistakes are the ones that in the end punish them, and it damaged and killed their chances today in Champions League.
And Barca with the red cards, again, it just feels like this story that keeps on repeating in these knockout stages.
You go up 1-0 and you cannot afford to make this mistake if you're Ronald Araujo, but Ronald Araujo has been making this mistake throughout the course of the season.
Barca's story in this competition feels like two eras stitched together. On one side, you had a team that changed football forever, dominating Europe with a style that nobody could deal with.
They never give you time to tackle them. Do you know what I mean? They always know. They know where everyone is on the pitch, and they know where the opposition are. So you think you can get to them, and before you know it, it's gone.
On the other, you have the past decade, where everything just feels fragile.
To lose in such a manner is atrocious, really. It's a Champions League quarter-final, and the manager, the coaching staff, and every player on the field, including Lionel Messi, can hold their heads up tonight.
There's no way mentally they're going to let what happened last season against Roma, where obviously they were 4-1 up going into the second leg, losing that 3-0, happen again. But it did happen again.
At this point, it feels more than just bad luck. The club is cursed. It doesn't seem to matter who the manager is, which players are on the pitch, or even who they're facing. When the lights are the brightest in the Champions League, Barca somehow find a way to lose.
And they were weak in the second half, and they offered nothing, and they deserved to go out.
That's what made watching Lamine Yamal so heartbreaking. You've got a teenager out there playing with zero fear, actually trying to take control of the game when everything is falling apart.
Lamine Yamal was outstanding, trying to force things in.
I think it shows personality as well. That's what I like about it. It's not manufactured. It's not his team, it's not a media official, it's just, yeah.
The courage he showed, the way he kept pushing, trying to change the outcome on his own. It was crazy to watch.
Hey, I've seen this one, this is a classic.
But at the same time, it felt familiar, because we have seen this story before. We saw Lionel Messi do the exact same thing for years.
Lionel Messi picks a ball up in midfield and runs the length of the field and scores. How many times have we seen that as well? And it feels as though when you watch Barcelona, that's what you're hanging on.
Are heavily reliant on, amazingly heavily reliant on Messi.
You're hanging on magic from Lionel Messi. And you've got to ask for more from your coach than just to say, you've got the best player in the world, let him do it.
The Barca number 10, trying to carry everything on his back, playing 1v11, going up against entire teams by himself. It's a common theme, and just like Messi found out, there's only so much that one player can do. That's the harsh reality of football. No matter how good you are individually, this is a team sport, and you're only as good as your weakest link. And in this competition, Barcelona have had way too many weak links.
Can't handle the pressure when it gets put on. But they all let it happen. And once that momentum got going, they couldn't stop it.
At the same time though, it's very important to zoom out a bit. Winning the Champions League is ridiculously hard.
And you have been winning everything with Manchester City, except this Champions League. And obviously it's so difficult to win the Champions League. Tell me a little bit why it's so difficult.
Because Madrid is always there.
Tough luck.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, that satanic institution, have made it look normal, almost easy. But they're the exception, not the rule. Most clubs don't touch this trophy that often, no matter how big they are. Even Madrid themselves have proven this. This is a club that went over 30 years without winning a European Cup. And even more recently, they had a 12-year gap between 2002 and La Decima in 2014. And even when they have dominated Europe, they haven't dominated domestically. They've never won a treble, which tells you how difficult it is to balance winning the Champions League and La Liga at the same time.
We don't do that here.
So when you look at the fact that Barcelona have not won this competition since 2015, it should only be shocking if you started watching Barca between 2006 to 2015. Because before that, they won their first in 1992 and then had to wait 14 years for the next one. That run of 4 Champions League titles in 9 years? Yeah, that wasn't normal. That was the anomaly. Let me take you back to the summer of 2008. That summer, Pep Guardiola took over a team that had talent but didn't really feel connected. What he did next changed everything. Pep went back to the idea of Johan Cruyff. Keep the ball, press high, control space, and make the opponent chase you for 90 minutes. Simple in theory, but the way that Barcelona executed it made them unstoppable. This is when they stopped being just another big club in Europe and became a team that everyone feared. And it all peaked in the 08-09 season. That season is still the standard for what Barcelona are supposed to be. Everything came together and it led them to the UEFA Champions League final in Rome on May 27, 2009. On the other side was Manchester United, the defending champions, led by Portuguese homelander. It was framed as Messi versus Ronaldo, the two best players in the world going head to head on the biggest stage.
Ronaldo says, don't worry, he'll score tonight. But so could Messi. Things could still unravel if he weaves his magic. 2 brilliant talents, but only one will dazzle on the greatest stage in May.
But once the game started, it did not feel like a 50-50 matchup. I mean, realistically, it's never been 50-50. Everybody who understands football knows who the better player is. Barca just took control. 10 minutes in, Samuel Eto'o made it 1-0 with a quick move inside and a finish at the near post. Then came the moment that everyone remembers.
It's 2-0. It's Messi. He scored against an English club now. It's Manchester United. Crucial time with 20 minutes to go.
2-0, game over. And just like that, Barcelona completed the treble. La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League.
Before the game, I was 100% sure we're gonna win easy. And we start very well. And Guardiola destroyed us. I remember Messi was on my side and I was pushing and Messi wasn't tracking back. He said to Samuel Eto'o to come on my side. Samuel Eto'o was following me everywhere. Even if I was going in the toilet, he was there. Yeah. I said, Sam, you a striker, like, come on. He said, I have to do the job, bro. And after they scored the first goal, and my God, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, that midfield, and they were playing against Anderson. You were just tired to watch them. You know when people say, press them, you couldn't press them. You couldn't. And after Messi was coming in those little pockets in the middle, they destroy us.
No Spanish team had ever done it before. That night in Rome confirmed that this Barca team, they were something different. After winning everything in 2009, it felt like Barca were just gonna take over Europe. But in 2010, they ran into their first problem. In the Champions League semi-final, they ran into Jose Mourinho and his Inter Milan side. Mourinho came in with a plan specifically designed to stop Barcelona. Even before the football started, things went wrong. Because of a volcano eruption in Iceland, flights across Europe were cancelled. Barca couldn't fly to Italy. Instead, they had to take a 14-hour bus journey, over 1,000 kilometers with a stop overnight. By the time they got to Milan, they were more exhausted than my uncle when he found out about internet porn.
Uh-oh. Your powers are weak, old man.
And I mean, you could see it on the pitch. Barca actually started well and took the lead through Pedro. But after that, Inter took over. They pressed aggressively, defended well, and when they won the ball, they attacked super fast. Goals from Wesley Sneijder. Maicon and Diego Milito gave Inter a 3-1 win in the first leg, so Barca went back to Camp Nou needing a comeback. What followed next was one of the most talked about tactical battles in Champions League history. Mourinho basically shut the game down, and when Thiago Motta got sent off early after that controversial moment with Sergio Busquets, it became even more extreme. Inter went down to 10 men and just refused to open up, kinda like my girl when I ask her what's wrong. They defended deep, everyone behind the ball. No space, no gaps. Basically imagine Arsenal's current haram football just on crack.
I cannot say what I think. I will be suspended.
Barca pushed and pushed, but they couldn't break through properly. Piqué scored to make it 1-0 on the night. But it wasn't enough. The lasagna lovers went through 3-2 on aggregate. For the first time, people saw that this Barca system, as good as it was, could be stopped. If you defended perfectly, stayed disciplined, and hit them on the counter, you had a chance.
In Italy, they were using the word gabbia. That I think the real translation is about like a jail to Messi, because in the end we didn't play man-to-man, but Zanetti, Motta, Cambiaso, everybody was responsible for any position that Messi could go. Our defensive approach was based on this positional problem.
So Mourinho didn't just beat Barcelona, he showed the blueprint for the future. Barca came back from that Inter loss with something to prove. They destroyed everyone in their path, including Mr. Champions League and his squad in the semi-finals. Another moment where Messi dunked on Ronaldo on a big Champions League night, but again, I digress. Barca reached the Champions League final again, this time at Wembley, and once again it was Manchester United waiting for them. United were good that year, they had won the Premier League, but this was peak Barca, the very best version of the team. Everything Pep had built was working perfectly. Xavi, Sergio Busquets, and Iniesta completely controlled the game. United couldn't get near them, they couldn't press, they couldn't win the ball, they couldn't even breathe at times. Then if that wasn't enough, Barca had Messi up front as a false nine and David Villa.
Messi. Fabulous. Inevitable. The latest in a long line of headline goals.
Sir Alex Ferguson later said that no team had ever dominated his side like that.
That Barcelona team, they were too good. It almost gives me a little bit of like, it takes the sting out of it a little bit that they were actually that good. Listen, they took all our weapons off us and we went to a war with no guns, no knives. That's what it felt like. Any time in my career where I've been in the game and thought, we can't do anything. That's what it felt like. They were that good. They had us like on a roundabout, continuous, just like flying about, dizzy. I remember me and Emmanuel standing at Wembley. Sometimes you ever look at each other during a game and it's like, you haven't got to say a word, but
yeah.
We're getting
my gosh.
We're getting pumped.
It was one of those performances where it looked like they were playing a different sport. It was men versus boys. Not a great day for the Premier League fanboys. That win gave them their 4th Champions League title and their 3rd in just 6 years. At that point, it really felt like they had figured football out, like they had found a cheat code that nobody else could stop. After reaching the peak in 2011, it seemed like Barca were just gonna roll through Europe again. But that's just not how football works. 2012 was the first real warning sign. In the semi-final against Chelsea, Barca dominated everything you can measure. Possession, passes, chances, it wasn't even close. At Camp Nou, they had 73% of the ball and completed over 700 passes. Chelsea didn't even touch it, and yet somehow, Barca still went out. They went 2-0 up through Sergio Busquets and Andres Iniesta, and with John Terry sent off, it looked done. But just before halftime, one moment changed everything.
Glass half full boy, and they might get one. No flag against Ramirez! Oh! What a goal! Where's he pulled that from? Brazilian magic from Ramirez. It's game on again. Absolutely brilliant.
Then it got worse. Messi stepped up for the penalty that could have killed the tie, and he hit the crossbar.
He still hasn't found the net against Chelsea. Incredible.
People call him Pessi now, but there was a time where I didn't trust him one bit from the penalty spot. Then, in the final seconds, with Barca throwing everything forward, Fernando Torres ran through and made it 2-2.
Story of the season. It's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final. The headline has been written.
The game felt like the end of something. Not just the Guardiola era, but the idea that dominating the ball automatically meant winning. And then came 2013, and things got even worse. Barca reached the semi-finals again, but this time they ran into Bayern Munich, and honestly, this wasn't even close. 7-0 on aggregate.
Robin scores! The 3-0 for Bayern Munich, and what a goal that was! Liberty to Alaba, that's coming in. Alaba more to the centre, next goal for Bayern Munich! Thomas Müller makes it 4-0!
Barca looked slow, overwhelmed, and completely unable to deal with Bayern's pressing and physicality. That loss made one thing very clear. Barca were no longer untouchable. Then in 2014, it got worse.
What a goal.
Under Gerardo Martino, Barca went out in the quarterfinals to Atletico Madrid. Barca had 64% possession and they created nothing. It was all foreplay, no penetration. That was the first time in 7 years that they didn't even reach the semi-finals. They lost the league to Atletico on the final day, lost the Copa del Rey final to Real Madrid, and just looked cooked. Everything that used to go their way stopped going their way. Their total dominance over European football, it was gone. After a couple of shaky years, including that brutal 7-0 loss to Bayern Munich, Barca needed a rest. And that's exactly what Luis Enrique gave them. This wasn't the same slow possession heavy team anymore. Everything went through the front three of Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and Neymar. MSN.
Saying 1, 2, 3, no text Lionel Huey, tearing up Europe's best teams. Everybody loves 3.
A front line that could destroy teams in seconds with pace, movement, and pure chemistry. They beat Man City,
Cabeça Suárez ficou com a sobra.
and slapped Pep's Bayern.
He's led Barca in Americans, and that's amazing! Lionel Messi with a second goal of such high quality.
Then in the Champions League final in Berlin against Juventus, Barca sealed a 3-1 win.
1-0, Rakitic presented with an easy chance, the first Barcelona attack. To Neymar to seal it all. That one does count.
That victory completed their second treble, something that no other European club had done at the time. And with 4 Champions League titles in 9 years and MSN all in their prime, it genuinely felt like Barca's dominance was just getting started. After the high of 2015, Barca started slipping in the Champions League. Domestically, they were still dominant, but in Europe, they looked like a completely different team under pressure. The first real warnings came in 2016. They were knocked out by, surprise surprise, Atletico Madrid, with Antoine Griezmann scoring twice in the second leg.
Griezmann! Atletico Madrid have that goal now! And does so. 2-0 Atletico Madrid. Surely now they are on their way into the semis.
That game exposed a big weakness. Barca struggled against physical, high-intensity teams, and for the first time, the MSN trio were completely shut down over 2 legs. Then came 2017. Most people remember the 6-1 comeback against Paris Saint-Germain. But that comeback actually hid a bigger issue. The real story was the first leg, where Barca lost 4-0 in Paris.
The birthday boy, the ex-Real Madrid player, fires home the free kick. Looking for Cavani, can hit it, and does hit it. 4-0! They swept forward again.
That game showed just how fragile they had become, and it didn't take long for those cracks to appear again. In the next round, Juventus completely outplayed them.
Brilliant goal! Wonderful goal!
Defensively, Juventus were perfect. Players like Chiellini and Bonucci gave Barcelona almost nothing. The second leg ended 0-0, and the tie was done. Despite all their talent, Barca were breaking down in Europe. The 2017-2018 collapse against Roma is where a lot of people feel that the club, it just became cursed. Everything looked comfortable after a 4-1 win at Camp Nou.
And turning in front of Lionel Messi by the unfortunate Daniele De Rossi. And Luis Suarez finally steals his first Champions League goal for a year and more.
Heading into Rome, the tie felt basically done. But Eusebio Di Francesco changed everything. He switched to a 3-5-2 system and used Alessandro Florenzi and Alexander Kolarov to push Barcelona back and stretch the pitch. Suddenly, the game flipped. Roma were faster and way more aggressive, while Barca couldn't keep up. And Dzeko scored early, and you could feel the momentum shift. A penalty from Daniele De Rossi made it 2-0. Barca's high line started getting exposed. There was no real pressure on the ball, and Roma kept finding space over and over again. And then came the moment that is basically spammed all over Twitter all the time. Manolas rises in the 82nd minute and makes it 3-0. Just like that, Barca were out on away goals. One of the most shocking comebacks ever. After the game, Ter Stegen called it unexplainable, but really it didn't feel random. It felt psychological, like something deeper had started to break. Plus, Ter Stegen's not a very good goalie in the Champions League. If the game against Roma felt shocking, then what happened in 2019 against Liverpool, well, it was just something else. They did everything right in the first leg. Barca won 3-0 at Camp Nou, with Lionel Messi scoring that ridiculous free kick goal.
Oh, what a goal! Absolutely outstanding. What a way to make it 600 goals for Barcelona.
How it's gone in from, what, 30, 35 yards? I will never know. Let's have a look at this.
Barcelona was 3-0 up, and then Dembele had that big chance on 4-0. I said, ooh, this miss could be decisive, this could be a big miss.
Heading into Anfield, it felt finished, even more so with Liverpool missing Mo Salah and Roberto Firmino. But the moment that second leg started, something felt off.
You had a feeling when you got to Anfield that day that, listen, something special could happen here. There was an atmosphere in the place that you just thought something could be cooking here.
The atmosphere was insane, and Barca looked rattled straight away. Liverpool came out pressing high, forcing mistakes, and completely overwhelming them both physically and mentally. One goal turned into 2, then 3, and suddenly, the tie was slipping. Origi and Wijnaldum both scored twice.
Oh, it's 3! Liverpool are all the way back! Gini Wijnaldum, the Champions League hero!
It just kept on building and building and building. They could feel that there was something great going to happen.
Yes!
I've never seen anything like it. Incredible. Fantastic quick thinking from Trent Alexander-Arnold.
They were absolutely nowhere. They never made any challenges. They never did anything to affect the game. And then you got Vidal, who's running around trying, but kind of wasting his energy.
Repeat this, the lack of athleticism was so clear. The speed of play by Barcelona as compared to Liverpool, and the speed with which Liverpool pressured Barcelona and their inability to react to it was surprising in a negative way for Barcelona.
What made this worse than the Roma game wasn't just the result. It was that they had gone through a collapse like this before. They were supposed to have learned from that incident. But it happened again. According to reports, the dressing room was completely silent for days, like nobody could even process what had just happened. They for real could have played Spurs in the final, and that would have been the easiest Champions League win ever. Instead, they blew it like your local hooker. The years between 2020 and 2023 were easily the lowest point for Barcelona in modern times, and it wasn't just about the results on the pitch. Everything around the club started falling apart, from poor financial decisions to not properly replacing aging players. It all really collapsed in 2020 against Bayern. Barca had no structure, no intensity. Meanwhile, Bayern, led by Hansi Flick, pressed relentlessly and tore them apart. Within 30 minutes, it was already 4-1. By the end, it was 8-2, one of the most humiliating defeats in football history. That game changed a lot of things. It marked the end for players like Rakitic, Luis Suarez, and Arturo Vidal at the club, and it even pushed Lionel Messi to the point where he sent his famous bureau fax asking to leave. But the real damage was far deeper than just one result. By 2021, Barca's financial situation had completely spiraled. The club was over £1 billion in debt, and the consequences were brutal. They couldn't even afford to keep Messi, who ended up leaving for Paris Saint-Germain. Without Messi, Barca's presence in the Champions League just disappeared. It was further proof that Messi in his last few years had been carrying Europa League level talent. In both the 2021 and 2022 season and the 2022-2023 season, Barca failed to get out of the group stage, something that hadn't happened in decades. In fact, to this date, a Messi-led team has never been grouped. Instead, Barca dropped into Europa League, where things didn't get much better. In 2022, they were knocked out at home by Frankfurt. Then in 2023, they faced Manchester United and once again fell apart. All of this made the financial situation even worse. Joan Laporta had taken a huge gamble by pulling financial levers to rebuild the squad, bringing in players like Robert Lewandowski with the expectation that Champions League success would bring in revenue. But with early exits and no deep runs, that money never came. So instead of fixing the problem, it just added more pressure. It wasn't just a bad run anymore, it was a full-blown crisis. Under Xavi and later Hansi Flick, there was some structure and identity back to Barca. You could see what the team was trying to do again, and to be fair, under Xavi, they had won the league. But in the Champions League, nothing changed. The same patterns kept showing up. One moment, one mistake, and everything fell apart. In the 2023-2024 quarterfinals, Barca were in control against Paris Saint-Germain. They won the first leg 3-2 in Paris, and then went 1-0 up in the second leg. When you're winning 4-2 on aggregate, especially at home, you should feel comfortable, right? Then everything flipped because a Barca defender had his annual bozo moment. Ronald Araujo got sent off in the 29th minute for a foul on Bradley Barcola. From that moment on, Barca lost control. Down to 10 men, Ousmane Dembele and Kylian Mbappe took over and PSG turned the game around, winning 4-1 and knocking Barca out 6-4 on aggregate.
There's no doubt about that. I don't think Araujo needs to make that foul really. But after that, I mean, still the control to find a spare man every time, to create those chances, to concede some chances as well. I mean, with this PSG team, it's never really straightforward, even 11 against 10. But I feel in the end, they deserve that.
It was the same story all over again. Strong start, one bad incident, total collapse. Under Flick, things started to feel different. In 2025, Barca reached the semi-finals and faced Inter Milan. First leg 3-3.
Oh, that's brilliant! It's another good ball in, it's another header, it's another goal. And it's another one for Denzel Dumfries, who's having the night of his life. Absolutely Amalu lets it run. Oh, that's a great goal! It's Rafinha with an absolute bullet.
Second leg, chaos again.
Yes! The captain strikes, the captain is onside. And Inter take the lead in this second leg as they did the... Here is Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Szczesny the wrong way.
Barca went down 2-0 with classic defensive mistakes, but then they came back.
And on the volley, Garcia! And Barcelona back in it! Perhaps the least likely man on the pitch, Eddie Garcia gets the goal 8 minutes after the restart. Martin lifting it again. The header is on, and this one's in the back of the net. Dani Olmo drawing the tie level. They've come from 2 goals behind.
It felt like they had finally overcome that mental block. Then in the 93rd minute, these guys let Acerbi equalize.
Francesco Acerbi, his first goal of the season, draws Inter level.
Like, how are you making this old-ass center back look like Italian Holland? Fratesi then scored in the 99th minute.
Fratesi into the corner. Inter lead again. Now in extra time, scored a huge goal in the quarterfinal. Fratesi off the bench. 7-6 to Inter.
And Barca were out. Another Champions League game that was there for the taking, but Barca could not finish the job. Then came 2026. Barca faced Atletico Madrid again in the quarterfinals, and there was some real optimism even though players like Rafinha and De Jong were injured. But once again, the same pattern returned. The annual bozo moment from a Barcelona defender. In the first leg at Camp Nou, Pau Cubarsí was sent off after fouling Simeone.
Cubarsí should have let Giuliano in.
Yeah.
And have him score the goal.
It was early in the game, wasn't it?
Right? Because you say, all right, well, if Atleti scores 1, we'll score 3.
I think Barca might just be sexually attracted to getting red cards.
This is football heritage.
Julian Alvarez scored from the free kick.
Alvarez, it's around the wall, it's brilliant. And Atletico Madrid lead at Barcelona 1-0 on the stroke of half time.
And Sorloth added another to make it 2-0.
Sorloth 2-0. That's a huge goal in this tie and in the Champions League of 25-26.
That stupid Norwegian fridge. The crazy part is that Barcelona actually played really well. They had 73% possession and 18 shots, but the ball just wouldn't go in. And you can't afford to be that poor in front of goal against the best teams in Europe. You can get away with it in a 38 league game campaign, but you cannot get away from it in the bright lights of the Champions League, where the margins are tiny against the best teams in Europe. And just like that, another European night ended in frustration. At this point, it doesn't feel like bad luck or coincidence anymore. No matter the manager, no matter the players, no matter the opposition, it's always the same outcome. Until Barca can combine their technical quality with stronger defending and a tougher mentality in big moments, this cycle will keep repeating. Because right now they're still caught in between. They're not the unstoppable team they once were, but not quite fully rebuilt either. One player that is looking to change Barca's mentality in this competition is Lamine Yamal. To see just how good he is, you have to watch this video right here.